In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. Today is the second day of the month of Kiyah, a very special month in the Coptic year. That's the month number 4, Tut Baba Hatur Kiyah. And it is a special month because it's the month that we use to prepare for Christmas, for the Coptic Christmas. Before I go, and I'm going to try today to give like 2 minutes answer to why Christmas in the Coptic Church is different than the Western Christmas. Why we celebrate Christmas on January 7th, not on December 25th. We just say that the 29th of the month is the day we celebrate Christmas. So from today until Christmas we have 27 days. 27 days. Which actually includes 4 Sundays. Let me answer the question first, so that actually when you're asked or you're wondering about it, why we have a different Christmas, that's a question we should all know. So bear with me, I'm going to do some astronomy and mathematics. Maybe you think this is not the time to do that, Abuna. I don't have any chance of meeting you again. So we're going to go on year after year not knowing what is the story, why we have a difference. To tell you the truth, the ancient church in the beginning, when they started celebrating Christmas, it was not from the very beginning. Easter, the resurrection, was the one to celebrate. The Christmas is added later, but still when the church was one, the whole Christendom, all Christians in the world were one church. You can go anywhere and be in your church and be at home. They all celebrated it on the 25th of December. But wait a second. The 25th of December was the 29th of Kiyah. Again, it was the 25th of December, but the same day was also the 29th of Kiyah. Because the calendar that was used by everybody in the world was something called the Julian calendar. And the Julian calendar refers to Julius Caesar. 54 before Christ, 54 years before Christ, he established a calendar for the empire, for the Roman Empire, and he asked the astronomers to make it coincide, to be very kind of correct to the solar cycle. Let me just go and explain. What's a solar cycle? So you know that the Earth has 2 turns. The Earth, our planet, turns around itself, and then as well as it turns around the sun. Turning around itself makes a day. Turning around the sun makes a... So they said, let us calculate how many turns the Earth do around itself by the time it comes and completes 1 full turn around the sun. And they found, according to their instruments and their cleverness and their knowledge and science, that the Earth turns 365 times and comes back to the same point, but it actually adds a quarter. So the Earth is not exactly facing the same place on Earth is facing the sun, turned 1 quarter. 6 hours. So that's easy. So every 4 years, we combine those 1/4 of a day and make into 1 day. So they came up with the system of the leap year. So every 4 years, you have a leap year. And the time, it's a little complicated. They didn't add the leap year to February. They added somewhere else. But then slowly this became systematized and everybody followed it, and it became February 29th every 4 years. And they said, so to calculate if a year is a leap year or not, if there is an extra day in February, the year number has to divide by 4 without remainder. So any year that has it can be accept division by 4 without remainder is a leap year. Simple. Then in the time of a Roman Pope, after the division of the church divided twice. Church divided in the 6th century, the Chalcedon Council, and they had the great schism in the Croatan history in the 12th century. So there was 2 divisions. We, the Copts and the Syrians and the Armenians and Ethiopians, got out in the 6th century, or we split from the main Catholic Church in a way. But then also the Greeks and the Russian and the rest of the Eastern Orthodox split from the Roman Catholic Church in the 12th century. So we're talking about 16th century. A pope, his name was Gregory. In his time, they found that actually those turns around the sun are 365 and 6 hours minus 11 minutes, to be precise. Give and take. It's not really consistent. Give and take. So those 11 minutes, so how are we going to deal with that? 11 minutes, we're actually adding too many leap days in history. So what we're going to do? They said, if you combine the 11 minutes to make a day, it will come to every 128 years. Every 128 years, you have a leap day taking out. You have to take out a leap day, because we're missing 11 minutes. It's not exactly 6 hours. So that one leap day has to be taken out every 128. So which year are you going to take out? How are we going to remember for generations to come? They said, okay, it's easy. If we combine the years, so it will be 3 days every 400 years. 3 days every 400 years. And they said to label them so we can know which years. Any year, they call it censurial year. The year that has 2 zeros on the extreme right. Any year that has 2 zeros, censurial years, does not accept division by 400 without remainder, is not a leap year. Everything else is a leap year as long as it divides by 4. But censurial years that does not accept division by 400 without remainder is not a leap year. There are only 3 years every 400. For example, 2000 is a leap year. How about 2100? Can be divided by 400 without remainder? No, because you cancel the 2 zeros. You got 21 divided by 4. 21 divided by 4 is 5 and remainder 1. So that's not a leap year. That's a censurial year. That is not a leap year. How about 2200? Not a censurial year. 2300? Not a 2400? Yes. So every 400 years, they have to subtract 3 days. So what did Pope Gregory, exactly, it's 1582. He made a plan, and it happened. Believe it or not, something in history that's very interesting. So he said, October 4th will be the last day in the Julian calendar. And it was a Thursday. Thursday, October 4th, 1582 will be the last day in the Julian calendar. Tomorrow will be Friday, October 15. What? So one day, you're waking up in the morning, you look at the calendar, it's October 4th. Tomorrow, you open up the calendar, it's Friday, October. So what did he do? He subtracted 10 days. No, because it's 5th to 15, not 4th to 15. It's 5th, should be 5th, it became 15, so it's 10 days taken out from the calendar. All of a sudden, our Kiah 29th was pushed forward. And instead of being Kiah 29th, we now are celebrating, on that time, we are celebrating in January 4th. All of a sudden, in that year, the Copts found themselves celebrating Kiah 29th on January 4th, instead of December 25th. But then they added 3 more years over the next 400 years. And then now we are in January 7th. And what will happen in 2100? It will be January 8th for sure. And 2200 will be January 9th. And we go, and there is a drift that's happening in the Coptic calendar. Why? Because simply the Coptic calendar was coinciding with the Julian calendar. The Julian and the Coptic actually going together very well. That's why many churches in the East, like Russia, and some of the Eastern Europe Orthodox, still do their Christmas in January. They follow the Julian calendar. Not because our calendar is different, not really. It is just that was a reform that was done in the calendar that you all use, but the Coptic calendar is still not reformed. And I think the suggestion is and has been given, is to reform our Coptic calendar too. We follow the Coptic calendar, but we come and do the same thing, simply because we know now much better than what they knew there in the 3rd or 4th century. So that's why we have. So if somebody asks you, why do you celebrate Christmas on the 7th and not on the same day? It's because we follow the Julian calendar, basically. We follow the Julian calendar. We had not made the reform of the Gregorian calendar. Since then, there is a drift, a constant drift of the calendars from each other. And we are invited to do that. I think at some time, the Coptic calendar will miss the agricultural seasons. This is actually anticipated. So at one point, after 1,000 years or so, God willing, if there's still humanity and the world exists, Christmas will come in the summer. That we have to think about that. So this something is called for a way to look into it. The reason why he did this was actually not for Christmas, for Easter, for the resurrection, because the resurrection also has drifted. So they wanted to bring it back to where it should be, and Christmas should immediately follow the spring equinox, the point in the spring where the sun is actually exactly at the equatorial. Anyway, so this is why we have a different Christmas date. So for us to have this idea first. Second, Kiyak. The church divided Kiyak into 4 pieces, 4 weeks. And we take the Gospel of St. Luke. And why Gospel of St. Luke? Because the Gospel of St. Luke is the first Gospel that talks about the beginning of the good news. Remember, the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Mark and John, they don't start in the Christmas. They start in the baptism of Christ. So you got Matthew and Luke. Matthew starts exactly at the birth. Luke starts 15 months before the birth of Christ. His story he's giving us is 15 months from the birth of Christ. I know today it seems like a math class. Why I say 15 months? Because the first one we're reading today is the good news given to Zachariah the priest. 6 months later, he's going to give the good news to St. Mary. We're going to cut it short in 1 week. We're going to read this story today, and next week we'll read the story of St. Mary getting the good news of Jesus' birth. 6 months apart. We know for sure that St. John the Baptist is 6 months older than Jesus. He's going to begin his service 6 months before Jesus begins his service. So if you calculate 6 months in apart, add that to 9 months of pregnancy, what would be the total? 15 months from beginning to end. So the month of Kiyak, which is 4 weeks, cover the span of history over 15-month history. Now, today it begins with this man, Zachariah, in the temple. And last night in the fellowship I asked the question, why would the angel see him in the temple while he's offering prayer and incense? He's offering incense. Actually, he's offering incense. The people are praying. You being here is one of the graces of the New Testament. I'll tell you why. Because in the old temple, they have the same structure. We have a holy place. In the Old Testament, nobody enters this. Not a priest, not a deacon, nobody. It was closed completely. Once a year, the high priest is allowed to enter very carefully. So this place is closed. But then this place that you're sitting in is given to the priests and the deacons, and that's it. So where would you stand? Outside in the foyer or in the yard? That's it. That's how the Old Testament was given. And in the letter to the Hebrews says, this showed that the way to holiness, the way to God is not open yet. So why would the angel come? So Zachariah standing here, there was something like this in front, but a little level, and he was offering incense on this, in front of a shut curtain. It is not open, and he's giving his incense here. That the church is completely empty, and he's just offering the incense. And it's scary. I told the kids when they were having a retreat in the church, what would happen if an angel appeared to you in the church? What would you be? You'd be scared? Oh, definitely, for sure, I would be scared. So he's standing there offering incense, and the people are praying outside. one thing I want us to know. This is a known theme to the people of old. Prayer and incense are good companions, they're brothers. They are not separated. Let me show you something from the book of Revelation. There's two places where it speaks about prayer and incense. Chapter 5 speaks about priests in heaven. And hear this. Now when he had taken, about the Lamb, Jesus taken the scroll, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each having a harp and a golden bowls full of incense, censers, which are the prayers of the saints. So incense is, in fact, prayers in heaven. Now I go to chapter 8. Then another angel, having a golden censer, came and stood at the altar. He was given much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of the saints. So one scene tells us the incense is the prayer, and the other scene says the incense is given with the prayers. In the book of Malachi, in the Old Testament, it says, everywhere in earth, incense will be offered to me, which is a very interesting thing to think about if you're a Jew. Incense is not supposed to be given to God anywhere. It has to be given to God in Jerusalem, in the temple. But when the prophecy of the end of the Old Testament says that incense will be offered everywhere, let me bring it up so you can actually read it. For my name is great, he says, and incense is offered to me everywhere. I believe it is Malachi. It is Malachi 1. The last chapter in the Hebrew Old Testament. Last book, I mean. Here it is. In verse 11. For from the rising of the sun, even to its going down, my name shall be great among the Gentiles, and every place incense shall be, which means, is it the present? Shall means future. He speaks from the Old Testament, having a vision of something that's going to happen in the future. Incense shall be offered to my name, and a pure offering. And the fathers of the church said this is very clear vision of the church. The church offers two things. Incense, what's the pure offering? The body of Christ. That's, he speaks about the church of the new. This is unheard. If you ask the Jews, what would you think of this? They say, we don't know. We're not supposed, we were given instruction not to give incense anywhere, but only in the temple in Jerusalem, in that altar that Zachariah is standing. And he has to take a turn. They divide them into 24 groups, and every group has to take a turn. They cannot go and offer incense whenever they want. So that incense will be offered to God every place among the Gentiles. Ooh, that's crazy. And we hear that incense is offered in heaven by angels, and it's given to us. Incense is given as the prayer in heaven, but also as a companion of prayer. Which, practically speaking, when you come to church, you suppose, whenever you see Abuna going around with the Shoria, offer your prayers. That's the time to offer everything you want, the request from God that you want. Because with the incense, our prayers are accepted as an offering. Why incense? I think about it sometimes, I don't know, but I think incense is a plant-based, sweet-smelling, burnt offering. And by the way, burnt offering is the highest. When you gain nothing out of it, you just burn it all to God. It's a plant-based, sweet-smelling, burnt offering. So that is when the archangel appears and he says to him, and the first thing he says, what does he say? Do not be afraid, Zacharias, for your prayers are heard. So he's standing at the hour of prayer in the temple before the altar of incense, and he's reassuring him, your prayers are heard. They are heard. God heard your prayers. Apparently, Zacharias had been offering incense and praying for a long time, but he had not been answered. And this is something to think about. We do offer God prayers. And for a long time, something doesn't really happen. There's nothing, as if you're talking to yourself. And Zacharias here, apparently, I can glance this from the gospel, he forgot about it. Because how is he responding to the angel? Wow, thank God, excited. How did he do it? He said, I'm not sure what you're talking about. Right? Okay, so what does that mean? It means to me that he stopped praying. He quit. He's maybe a 60, they retire early, and lucky them. They retire early in the Jewish priesthood, maybe 55, 60. So I'm thinking he's 60 years old as I am. But then he started his priesthood at age 30. So 30 years in priesthood. I figure he prayed for this son maybe for 10 years until his wife stopped having a period. When his wife stopped having a period, he said, I did what I can, I'm done. Forget about it. There is no answer. That's why he said, how do I know this? I'm a man, I'm an old man, and my wife is old too. She cannot have children. And that made the angel angry, actually. And if you think about angels being angry, please don't get any angel to be angry. It's not fun. So he had this remote control button, and then he put the remote control. But apparently he muted both the microphone and the receivers. At the end of the story, when you read the end of the gospel, he was deaf actually. They had to make signs to him because he couldn't hear. So he was muted. Not fun. And there's different ways you think about this. But the point is, there's no reason for us to stop praying. In the Jewish teachings, they say, if something is lacking, it's either not prayed for or not prayed for enough. If something is lacking, it's either not prayed for or not prayed for enough. St. Paul comes in the New Testament, he says, do not grow despondent. Do not grow weary of offering prayer to God. It will be heard in time. But here's something for us, and think about it from now and also next week. Why did Zacharias the priest wanted a child to start with? And why did his wife wanted a child? What's the big deal? Of course, every father and mother want to have children. Maybe not every father and mother. Some don't. But usually, commonly, normally. Why did he want a child? To be a father. And to be blessed. Because Moses said, if you are blessed, you will have children. You have this, you have that. But if you don't have children, it seems like God is not happy with you. And why Elizabeth wanted a child? She'd say at the end of the gospel, she said, it's a reproach. It's a shame. That's what she said. But why? They want it for themselves. They wanted it for themselves. Let's face it. This was a selfish request. They wanted to be fathers and mothers. But why did God want John? What was John to do for God? To prepare the way of... And why did God want his son to be born of St. Mary? To save us. So although they wanted something for themselves, but God wanted something for his service, for his glory. And God is going to get that in the time God prepared for. So this is all about Christmas, by the way, so if you don't go lingering. They wanted to take, but Christmas is about giving. They wanted to take, but the Christmas is about giving. So the priest and his wife wanted something for themselves, present from God. God said, I will give you the present, but I will take it away from you because it's going to be my gift to humans, not to you. You will be the way to do this. So sometimes we think too much of ourselves, and it creates a lot of misery. Creates a lot of misery when you think about yourself and yourself alone. That's why there's a lot of sadness in the world. But if you think about God, don't stop praying. and you think about serving God, you will do like St. Mary. I bet you St. Mary never thought about herself. That's why she was chosen easily. At the end of the Gospel of next week, you will hear, I am the handmaiden of the Lord. Let it be to me according to your saying. At the end of the Gospel of today, we have a muted person because he speaks nonsense. All what he thinks about like a child, I wanted this thing and God didn't want to give it to me, I'm not talking anymore. I don't want to pray. You don't want to pray? Don't talk. Might as well not talk at all. So that's, I think, sometimes we forget this. That we give up on God in prayer, but we don't align our goals in prayer to be with God. Godly goals. And instead of selfish, me, puny, pitiful desires. That's why we don't have too many people excited about serving. We don't have too many people excited about volunteering for things. Everybody wants to do his thing and get more, do less, do little, you know. So that's what we need to think about for the next 2 weeks, especially comparing him to St. Mary, who is from beginning to end is willing to do what God wants. She doesn't have an agenda. She doesn't have anything for herself. She doesn't have a prayer for herself. She is totally belonging to God. That's why she is the full of grace, the all holy, the Panagia. She's completely godly. And that is how we ought to live. Jesus came to do the same, so that we actually all belong to him and we are interested in serving him. Not everything is about me, not everything. We need to grow out of this baby thinking. Not everything is about me. I have to live for him. And that's what the New Testament is calling for us to be godly people. To get out of the baby style thinking, of the selfish ambitions, the things that we only think about is ours. That's it. And I can't see it beyond that. I can't even think beyond that. I don't challenge myself. I ask him that to give us that spirit, the spirit of Christmas, because blessed is the giving more than the taking. Blessed is the giving more than the taking. To him is the glory, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, now and forever. Amen.